So I just think people need to take it seriously. And as I said before, on the deepest level there, when we realize, like, people can, if they read the symbol literacy article on the Michael Tessarian website, they're going to have the facts that we are under attack. I pointed this out in my DVD program, the subversive use of symbolism, and in many talks I've done on that subject, that we are under bombardment. Our youth are under bombardment. And so the person who's deadly serious, not just trivially serious, you can't just say, oh, yeah, here's the tarot, why don't you use that? Hey, kids, do this. No, it's private. It has to be deep. The interest has to be deep. And then you will be armored enough to then maybe turn other people on to, the basics and the beginnings of symbol literacy, and then they can start their own journey. You don't dump tarot on people who are novices. It's deep. It's the book of life. It's the emerald tablets of Hermes we're talking about here, right? So, let's get real. This is heavy duty stuff. It's beautiful stuff. And the ego part of us is going to be threatened. The socialized collectivist part that you were hinting at earlier, that people just go along to get along. Yeah, well, that's a collective brain. That's the social handrails. And so when you come from that world, yeah, you're going to be a little trembly, because picking up the tarot, oh yeah, what are my friends going to think? And oh, isn't it? Haven't I heard that Aleister Crowley's the devil's own, and haven't I heard that Man Blavatsky's the devil's own, and the tarot? Oh Jesus, I can't touch it. In other words, knowing nothing about it except what you've gleaned from this exoteric, crazy, mad-ass world, which is so full of crime, debauchery, and loathsome features. But now we're experts in knowing that the tarot's evil, right? What can you do with people like that, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's just the product of little learning. It's not voodoo. It's not witchcraft. It's not evil. It's incredibly it's a therapy. It's a form of therapy. At the most primitive level, it works like any psychological test, like the Rorschach inkblot test, or the Myers-Briggs test, and many of these other tests, except that it takes the temperature of your psyche. And I go into all of this in that free video tour. People are welcome to go and check it out and start to reconsider that, and also, again, get in their mind that there is a legitimate Western magical tradition. That's key.
Absolutely. And I really like the fact that it's something that addresses the journey of selfhood, because there's a lot of people that might wake up to these things like, these false flag events and government corruption, and, okay, the banking system's fraudulent and it's run by psychopaths, whatever. The education system let us down, and the youth are all, practically psychotic and neurotic coming out of school. And we realize those things. But if you're only bringing in just that piece of this puzzle, and you're not awake to these solutions that have been with us for aeons, and how we can actually correct ourselves within, then I really like the example you've given in many other talks, where you talk about the whole oily rag situation, where a lot of people are trying to clean the window. They see this problem and they're really trying to go out there and make a difference, but they haven't even turned 5 minutes of their attention on some of the darkness and the the inner conspiracy, if you will, at all, and then they are going out there trying to help save the world. It can end up sort of being counterproductive, right?
That's great. You put it in a nutshell, mate, because that's why I'm into the individual, because it's, like I say, 30-40% of your time, by all means, work with your community and your brothers and sisters out there. But this pestilence that's been in operation for millennia has left its residue. This attack leaves wreckage behind it, and our psyche and our emotions are dirty. They're in a state of dilapidation. So we have to deal with that inner house, because if you don't, then it's the tyrant. No, what do we say? That the fist that crushes the tyrant's head becomes a tyrant in its stead. And my worry is exactly that once you remove one demonic clutch of psychopaths, you know what I mean? The trouble is, who's going to replace it?
Yeah.
Oh, we all know that everybody thinks, oh, well, if we could only get rid of them fellas, then we'd be fine. But history has showed us, has it not, that when you get rid of one, another one takes its place. This is so axiomatic. People even lament it. They say, how come it never changes, right? Well, it doesn't change because people are leaving consciousness at the door, And in this alternative movement, as you rightly say, it has become a focus for me. It was there from the beginning, but as time went by, it became even more and more important because too many people were leaving this side, and that you need to take up the tools to help you to strip this debris, to mend this dilapidation. It's like, and basically inoculate your psyche, inoculate yourself so that you're immune. Now, of course, there's not only one way to do it. I'm not saying that tarot is the only way to do it. I mean, you yourself are into martial arts. That's a form of meditation. That's a form of hygiene. That's a hygienic thing. Yeah. For others, it might be getting into nature or taking up a particular sport, but doing it in a mystical way. So I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but I'm saying it is a very ancient and powerful way to do it, because in all of these other systems, unfortunately, imagery is often not involved, especially sacred imagery that is already encoded into our subconscious. The images that are on the tarot cards, particularly the major arcana, are images that they're composite images, number one, and they have a certain geometry about them, and those symbols are known to us racially, in the racial memory, and that's why they're particularly powerful, because we recognize them. It's that whole Jungian archetype thing again, but even in a more specific way than even he imagined, because even he was working with alchemical images, which really don't have the same kind of power. Alchemy, as I've said before in other shows, was a sort of an invention of the Rosicrucians, and their particular 12 steps, the famous 12 alchemical steps towards enlightenment, and their little scheme, it has some merits. It's an interesting take. But it's not pure divination. And there's also other little problems I have with it. It's a little bit of a sort of it is esoteric to a degree, okay? Let's put it that way. But it's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's an interesting study. But when one wants to get into the real mirror of the soul situation, when somebody has made self-awareness first on the list, then you're going to have to at some point get into these divination arts, including other things that one is doing, you see. Now, the problem is that in the New Age movement, there's been so many people with a booth or a stall up, ostensibly offering you some sort of a way to improve your life, and it became loaded with deceivers and charlatans and what have you. And so discernment is obviously needed. You know what I mean? Discernment is obviously needed. And I think that's a key part, because there is so much rubbish out there of an exoteric nature. So I just stress to people that if they check out my work, realize that it is esoteric. It's been honed over many, many years, decades now. And especially if they've never heard of it before, then they can join us on Facebook, for these new webinars we'll be doing starting right now, starting this month, to begin their journey into this, because it takes time. And so what we're offering now in the way of these webinars, these 22 free webinars, and behind that there'll be other things I'll be offering as the weeks and months go by, a more in-depth series, 3 short videos introducing more the taroscopic system of astrology. Like I said, my system's a combination of tarot astrology, numerology, and Kabbalah, and there'll be those this year as well, for those who are even more serious. But we'll start off with these webinars with information that I've been studying, as I said, since the 80s. And, we make history today. Your show is the first show where I've ever even publicly ever spoke about this journey in this particular way.
Well, I must say I'm very honored, Michael. I'm glad you've come on to do this on the show, and I very much appreciate it. I very much appreciate your work in general, and we've definitely done our job tonight, man, because we're getting questions from the chat room. Everybody's chomping at the bit. They want to know about these webinars. They're already excited about it. So we got about 10 minutes left. The 22 different webinars, we're going to be doing each one on each individual card of the major arcana, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It'll be a monologue from me on each of these cards bi-monthly, so 2 cards a month, give or take, unless there's some other event comes up where there's a pause. But it'll be 2 cards. And remember, I must emphasize again that the monologue is from my notes, which have been garnered now over, we're talking, at least 30 years. So it's a very concentrated and in-depth symbolic reading, and then we were going to follow this up with radio shows in which we have call-ins, because I may have all of this knowledge, but I'm still no expert. We're going to have feedback. We're going to have other people adding what they have, what they think and what they want to bring to the table. So this is very exciting for me as well. It's not just regurgitating old material. It's also looking forward to these broadcasts that you're doing with me, in which we have call-ins, so people can, we welcome them to come in and speak about their experiences with these divination arts, or to add their own interpretations as well. So this is going to be a very interactive thing, thanks to your show and the Facebook pages that we have at the MSAR Conspiratorium, and the other Facebook pages that we have.